I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water.
It's about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward.
Join movement expert Aaron Alexander as he dives into the minds of the foremost innovative healthcare thinkers and movement masters on their approach to optimal health and wellness. Align Podcast.
Welcome back to Align Podcast. My name is Aaron Alexander. Today's episode, a little bit different than normal. This is, I don't even know what normal is actually, but this was a conversation recorded live in Sedona, Arizona after you call it a men's retreat, I guess you'd call it, men's gathering, something like that. I have a little resistance around that term for some reason. But a bunch of dudes, interesting fellows came together from Aubrey Marcus, the boss man, CEO of On It, was leading the pack, brought a bunch of interesting heads together, and we spent maybe like 5 days or so, did all sorts of great stuff. We did breath work and we did sweat lodges and all sorts of ceremonial things. Really great. And this conversation was the aftermath of that. So sat down with Aubrey Marcus, Kyle Kingsbury, you guys know both of them from this podcast, and then Tait Fletcher, new to the podcast, really rad. I'm like super impressed by him in all sorts of ways. He's super insightful, majorly. He's kind of like a Eckhart Tolle wrapped up in a Conan the Barbarian body. I don't think that's the right comparison, but anyways, he really interesting guy. He is the CEO of Caveman Coffee, runs the Pirate Life podcast, ex-UFC fighter, just really rad. I hope you guys enjoy this conversation. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the website, aligntherapy.com. If you are drawn to that URL, you can start the 5-day movement challenge. It's the first thing you see on the homepage, and you can start learning fundamentals of how to integrate more effective movement into everything that you're doing. I get messages quite regularly of where to start, and that I think is a really great place to start. So that's on aligntherapy.com. Thank you guys so much who grabbed the Align band, heavy duty resistance band, door anchor, all that stuff, comes with videos and all those things. Thanks for leaving reviews on Amazon. I want to read a review from, who is this? Jay Wrestler, best form of physical therapy, 5 stars. Using this band with Aaron's instructional videos. He spelled Aaron with 2 R's instead of 2 A's. That's okay, I'm only mildly offended. Just joking. Aaron's instructional videos have been the best form of physical therapy I have encountered, from ankle sprains to shoulder surgery and everything in between. I have been to about a dozen physical therapists, and nothing even comes close to what I have been able to accomplish with the band. I have become addicted to using this thing. I use it every day, and I am buying more for gifts. That's freaking awesome. Send us a message, send me a message at Align Band, Jay, and we'll send you out some stuff from On It. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you guys absolutely devour this podcast. It was released on the Aubrey Marcus podcast as well. So if you heard it over there, I apologize. And if not, I just really wanted to bring it to y'all on this platform too. So enjoy. Here we go. Back to the show. Pow.
Align Podcast.
Podcast is motherfucking starting.
Wow.
We have 1,000 pounds of men, probably literally 1,000 pounds of men on this podcast. That's my new record. It's accurate. Of poundage, of American male poundage. So I have a loose idea of what I want to talk about. And that loose idea is what I want to talk about is the concept of masculinity, how it has been misportrayed, the lessons we've learned along the way, where we're going, and also with an understanding that masculinity doesn't purely pertain to men. This is not a gender thing. This is not about men. This is about an archetype, an understanding of what that thing is, and all people are a blend of masculine, feminine, etc. But as actually biological men, and grappling with that concept, which I think is something that all people need to grapple with, but particularly all of us have had ideas, insights, things that have changed, thoughts that we thought were important that are no longer important. Thought it'd be an opportunity to dive into some of where we've been, where we think we might be going, and maybe some of that along the way will help light a few paths for some other people too.
Should we all go around the table and introduce ourselves so people recognize our voices?
It's not a bad idea.
All right, I'm Kyle Kingsbury. I work with Aubrey.
Hi, Kyle.
I've also had Tait Fletcher and Aaron Alexander on the Human Optimization Hour. Plug.
I feel like I've already been introduced now. I feel like this is redundant. Yeah. Tait Fletcher, and I'm just happy to be here, man. I feel like it's a huge conversation. I've wanted to talk about it in this format. I'm excited for this with you guys, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm super grateful to be here too. Aaron Alexander. I've been on the On It Human Optimization podcast a couple times, Aubrey Marcus podcast, and then had these guys on the Align podcast. I'm currently sleeping in the basement with Kyle Kingsbury. Happy to say.
We're just cranking out farts.
And now, what is code for basement? You want to tell people?
It's not exactly the upper room. It ain't the upper room.
That's where we leave it.
It's the lower room.
Yeah.
So one of the things, I'll kick this off, and maybe it'll jump off the conversation. One of the things that I talked about when we did the breathwork ceremony is that I had this idea about strength. And to me, I needed to be strong, and that was an idea that I had from very early on. And that meant physical strength. It meant sexual strength. It meant outward achievement strength. So what I accomplished, it meant my financial strength. It meant strength in all of these different ways. And it's been really a run, like a race to try and show that I was strong, because I felt like being strong was what made me really worthy of love. And then now in this journey, finding that, all of those external things are just the play and maybe perhaps some of my expression that I've chosen. But this idea of strength making me worthy of love was really a misconception from the start, that I was worthy from the beginning and that I didn't need to go out and prove all of these things. And I might as well have, I can go do all the same things, but it's not what did you do? It's like, why are you doing it? And how are you doing it? With what mindset are you going through this? And I think for me, it's been a real realization, cool, all these things, I love all these things that I've done and I'm happy about them. I'm happy about the way my body acts. I'm happy about the company. But the why behind it was never always quite right, because I was trying to show, hey, look at me. I'm a real man. Got all this shit sorted out. And then now realizing oh man.
It's a huge part of it is thinking that you got it sorted out, right?
Yeah, totally.
That's I don't know how long that takes, where you're like, oh, okay, I can stop pretending like I know what's going on. Nobody really has a great idea. Some people have paths that are better routed to get efficiently towards a place, whether that's a place inside of courage or of, integrity, honesty. I don't know. I start thinking about things like that, and I start thinking about strength. I guess I never thought of it as in a male, female, or a separated way. It's I feel like maybe challenging myself or something. But the conversation that's going on right now, kind of in the country, is it's a weird thing. It's weird to not think that there's an overlord going, we want people to be as divisive as possible. And we've done it pretty well with blacks and Indians and Mexicans and white people. And now we're going to do it with genders. We'll see if we can do that. And it seems like that's kind of what's going on. And it's an interesting thing to kind of sit back and view, because as with everything, all these things are changing and this won't matter much in a little while. I think that we think things are so significant right now. And with a little maturity, you go, it unwinds itself.
Yeah, I think there's definitely this macro issue of what the world thinks about masculinity and being a man. And then there's the internal issue. And I think if we go from the inside and then work our way out, and try and sort this out, that makes sense. Because I think you're absolutely right about the country and how it's judging and putting people in categories and different boxes, and those boxes become prisons, and then those prisons keep you trapped, and you're trying to live up to an idea. But how has that affected you guys personally? How has the idea of being a man been in some ways an illusion or some ways a trap that you guys have got in?
I was going to ask you, Aubrey, as you were describing your experience with that, if you've had any hard breaking points with that, because I started off really obsessed with bodybuilding. It started off at age 14. Around that same time, I had some interesting childhood experiences with my dad. He started smoking crack and ended up going to prison and got into prostitution, all these really interesting experiences that kind of...
he was the prostitute?
He was pimping.
Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. He came up with bullet holes in his car, and it was a super fascinating experience.
Wow.
He was
Did he have a nice coat?
or a cane.
No, he wasn't like the cool kind of pimp. He wasn't like Snoop Dogg.
Monte Carlo? What are we
Like,
talking
not
about?
even close.
Good El Dorado.
So the story that I tell myself that doesn't need to be accurate is that a product of that led to me feeling like, okay, my home, my physical, tangible home doesn't feel safe. So I'm going to pack on my biological home and put on all these different walls. And so what that led to being was like super imbalanced body. So I got really focused on all the superficial muscles, which is like a metaphor for all sorts of other things. And then eventually it got to a certain breaking point where literally my shoulder started dislocating, my ankle dislocated. Like my body was so imbalanced that I went from being an athlete to being this huge, yoked out bodybuilder kid. But then the parts literally started like exploding in a sense, like popping off my body. Have you had any kind of like hard moments like that at all?
Of course. I think we all have had these hard moments, where we have an illusion that we chase, and you chase the illusion until you get right there and you think like, this will be glorious. I'm fucking gonna make it here. And then you're there and you're like, fuck, it was an illusion.
Right.
And then sometimes you need that. Sometimes you needed to get to the point where you were a bodybuilder. Like if you would have been frustrated, didn't have the discipline, didn't have the will to actually blow up your body and get that big, you might not have learned that getting that big didn't make you feel any better. Yeah, exactly. Like it's almost like you have to pursue it enough until you can say like, oh, that wasn't the thing.
I feel like that's taking responsibility for yourself too, in a way. At a certain point, you go, oh, it falls on me to own me in that way. Not like if I acquire this, then I'll become whole in some fashion, right?
Yeah. What about for you guys on the fight? What about for you guys on the fighting side? Because that's a very rare career. Like, actually slinging your bones at another human. Like it's a rare career that not a lot of people have. But like, what were there had to be some ideas and things that you were chasing along the way that kind of now looking back, like, oh yeah, now that I've done that, I've learned something.
Yeah, I mean, it was for me. It wasn't about like being as strong as I could or being I don't know. It's like I don't think I ever fought for other people, but I certainly when I fought, when I first started fighting, I just wanted to beat the fuck out of people. Like I had a burning desire to hurt people, and I didn't care if I got punched, if I got to punch you back. And then over time, that shifted to I just wanted to be the best version of myself, and I was picking up things like breath work and meditation and how to calm my mind when I'm in the storm, in the battle, and those things have translated outside of fighting very well for the rest of my life. And I have a deep appreciation for that. But eventually fighting through plant medicines and also the lack of pay and everything that we know happens with fighters, it just wasn't important anymore, and I think that the plant, specifically ayahuasca, allowed me to release that from any type of attachment to the identity that I had as a fighter. Like, this is what I do. It doesn't, I'll keep chasing that dream until I can't fucking think and I'm drooling out of my mouth. Or maybe I can just pump the brakes here for a minute, reassess my life and say, there's a lot more that I can do. I still have a fair amount of brain cells and I can move on to the next thing and see what that is, even not knowing what that was.
All right, let me challenge this slightly. Like when you hurt your knee recently, like how did not being able to move your body in a assertive kind of physical expression, how did that affect your mentality though?
It was more crippling to my ego than fucking any part of my body. Yeah. Like there's a part.
Did you feel weak?
Yeah. And there's a part of it where it's not even just like I was telling Aubrey this. It's one thing if I can't get on the mats and roll, like, all right, I can take some time off. It's a completely different thing if I can't run, if I have trouble walking, if I can't sit on the floor. Like we have a Japanese floor table to eat dinner on, and I couldn't sit down there without my leg being straight and it going to sleep and me feeling just fucked up. And then that would just remind me. And of course my expression of my own pity party is extended out to everyone I'm around. My wife feels that energy. My son does. He can't play. I'm like, quit wrestling with me, like that kind of thing. And, and it really rubs Tosh the right way. It fucking pisses her off for the right reasons. Like I did that to myself. I should know better, but I'll keep relearning that lesson until I take it in and actually start to embody that gentleness and the balance.
Or loving yourself just the same. With an injured leg, with no leg, with 2 less legs.
Yeah, it's the
like,
thing
I think
about
that's
usefulness
that's
too, right?
the thing. Like, yeah, I'm worthy because I can do all these
I
things.
feel that, Aubrey.
You know,
Yep.
and then so maybe that's the
If your
lesson.
usefulness in the community is like,
Yeah.
you're like, I'm a protector, I'm able to do this or whatever. And then you go, no, if a couple of old people came by and pushed me, I would fall over. Like I can't, you know, or whatever. It's like, so then you're like, who am I? You can, you know, I think that's the thing too, of you moving out of something that's kind of an austere career like that and going, who are you now? Is the next thing. And I think that men have to do that regularly, and we're not very adept at that. Like nobody tells us really how to do that. And the only way I start thinking about it, I start thinking about, so you do this thing, you do bodybuilding at that time, you do jiu-jitsu at this time, whatever it is, it's like just, I've been lucky enough to jump into those things enough that I know what it really tastes like. I know how to navigate it. And so they become layered on top of me next week of who is that you become, you know? And this idea of like, I'm in that becoming instead of a place that I'm trying to arrive to.
I wonder, Kyle, with you, when you get injured, if it actually ends up being, it could potentially be beneficial for the relationship because it ends up softening you to Tosh and to your family. You know, so we like, as men, I think we feel kind of obligated to have this very strong, hard, large, kind of intimidating.
I want to be hard and large.
In the basement. Code word basement.
Situation.
But when you lose that, like I remember with an ex-girlfriend, she would like me the most by far when I was sick. Because all the other times I wanted to go to jiu-jitsu, I wanted to go climb a mountain, I wanted to like go. And it was this kind of like fulfilling this masculine stereotype thing that I would lead with because that was where I was more comfortable. But then when I was down, I was like, I just want cuddles and soup and like all these other parts that are just as valuable. And maybe even like, because we're maybe a little bit out of balance, more valuable for most of us as men. You know, so by taking that away from you, it actually ends up making you a lot stronger because it forces you to shine the light on other parts.
I hate myself when I'm sick.
Exactly.
I know, I do. I think I am an unworthy piece of shit.
Exactly.
And that's why I worry about getting sick so much. Because like I've built, and I'm obviously working on this with why I'm mentioning, but I've built my identity on my function, on like what I'm able to do, what I'm able to contribute. This is what I'm able to offer. And then if I'm sick and I have to just receive, or if I just ran and, you know, had this car accident and I can't do anything, it's like teaching me like, oh wait, I can still be loved even when I can't and I'm not.
And you're hanging
doing
on the
anything.
identity of who you were yesterday.
Yeah.
It's like today after the car accident, that's a new identity now.
That's
and
a new
so
me.
like being in that and kind of in real time, like we were talking about like these significant events in time and that those are markers in time. And a lot of times we don't notice that as the milestone kind of that it is, or whatever, these new epochs kind of that come up. But like that happens readily. I mean, an accident flips that right away, you know, these big experiences.
Yeah, I actually end up having more respect in certain ways for people that aren't genetically like obviously Conan the Barbarian, and they're still strong and confident and show up and feel like.
I guess my thing is shame brought me there in the big of going, fuck man, I would be embarrassed. I got like deeply into like Marcus Aurelius was my hero all through my 20s. And I was just like, I feel like I'd be an embarrassment to walk around, not be able-bodied, not be able to handle myself physically, not be able to be well-read. Like I had markers for myself where I was like, I would be less of a man. Why would I choose to be less of a man? And that was kind of the thing, more of like, and I say man as a human, like that'd be, I mean, I think that's an important distinction, I guess. As a human, I'd be less of a human. I'd be irresponsible as a human if I didn't get a kind of average modicum of usefulness at all those things, you know? And that's kind of what drove me there. Is I don't think trying to fight against something or anything. If anything, I was trying to assuage my ego in a way where it's like, put yourself in these horrific conditions and see who you are now.
It's like we have this idea of what the man is that's worthy of the love and affection of society at large, which would have been our tribe back in ancestral times, and which now is like expanded to the tribe and also our partners. Like this idea, like, okay, if I can be this type of thing, then I'm worthy, you know. But then you get all those things, and then you realize that all of these ideas about what you need to be are not really true. Like, but you can still choose them. Like you can still choose to be strong and be fit and be successful and do that. But it's not what you do, it's like why you're doing it. Are you doing this to chase this thing so you cross the line and here I am, I fucking crossed the line with all this external validation, and then you realize that you're actually not standing strong at all, which is a realization that I recently had. I'm just standing bolstered like a statue that's made of all of the stilts of all the validation of every woman I've ever been with and every success I've ever had and every, thing that I've ever done. And then I start removing that and I collapse to the ground and I'm like, wow, I can't even stand on my own self-love without these other things, because I thought I've needed all these things to be even worthy of my own love, worthy of society's love, worthy of anything. It's like this idea, I think, that so many of us have is really a dangerous prison.
And I also think that everyone at this table has had their ass kicked so many times that builds the lessons in, and the fact that we keep coming and keep coming back, keep getting up, that builds something that lends itself to the whole human experience. Like if you have to make that transition, getting fired with no severance and go on to the next thing with blind faith, or I don't know what I'm going to do after fighting, but I know I'm not going to fight anymore and we'll see what happens, right? All those things become possible through the lens of, damn, I just got fucking destroyed, or damn, I couldn't get it up for that girl, or man, that guy just fucking beat my ass silly and teabagged me for 15 minutes in my hometown in San Jose. Like, all those happen, right?
I cannot possibly express the self-torture that I put myself through for a failed sexual encounter. Do you understand? Like, I would actually go through punishment routines where I'd be like, I had one in Australia where I had a chance to hook up with this girl. It didn't work out. Like, dick wouldn't stay hard. The thing was like, it was just kind of a mess. And I was like, you know what? You fucking piece of shit. I was like, you don't get to sleep tonight. You don't get to sleep. You're going to sit there and you're going to write in your journal and you're going to read this book and you don't get to sleep because you're a piece of shit.
I thought you said,
I was literally doing that to myself. And I did that. So I forced myself to stay awake all night as a form of self-punishment because I hated myself. Wow. And then continued to hate myself years. I don't know. I mean, not that one specific thing, but that one incident stuck out because of this massive.
What's worse, not getting hard or premature ejaculation?
Ooh. Well, it's all like the same. It's like the same fucking
shit. Getting hard is way worse. At least you finish when you prematurely eject.
But they're like related.
If you don't get hard though, you can put it on her. Not that that's what I suggest. But if you premature ejaculate, it's completely on you.
That might be on her too.
Both. It's on her in a beneficial way.
But that thing, like for me, it's because one of my core like home issues. You're talking about home issues. Like one of the reasons I've been driven into open relationship, my home insecurity. Like my personal insecurity is about sexual dominance and aptitude leading to the worthiness of love. Like I've just had that instilled from an early fucking age. And that to me has been the biggest insecurity that I've tried to, overcome. And then it wasn't going well for a while. And then I like overcame it with this like grandeur of having like these big, lots of girls and these big kind of moments where I was like beating my chest like King Kong, like, see, I can do this. You know what I mean? And like, still finding now, like this week, little pieces of like sexual validation from Whitney that get threatened because we're in an open relationship and she's interested in sleeping with somebody else. And I go, oh, but why? Why does this hurt so bad? Like, what do I need from her to make myself feel like I'm worthy of love? And that's been the exploration. And we all have these things that we're like, if I'm not this, I fucking hate myself.
Is it part of it like, am I not enough? Like, because that becomes the thing, right? I know that my trouble with one of my longest lovers was, why do you have to be with other people? Like, am I not enough? And I couldn't get to common ground on why that was, that it was just a different thing for like, that I wasn't going to be true to this thing that she maybe wanted to be true, but that becomes a whole myriad of issues that grow out of that then for me.
That's a false idea that people ascribe to in society, this idea that one person is enough. It'd be like, I always liken it to the restaurant owner that would get mad if their friends ate somewhere else. Like, right. Is my restaurant not enough for you?
But it's a reflection of this thing with Whitney too. I mean, that's a mirror of that in a way too. It's like, why, and instead of that why of going, is there not infinite love? I love what you said last night about the sun. And it's like, if it warms me, does it warm you less?
No doubt.
And that's such a beautiful fucking idea.
No doubt.
When we can get out of that scarcity that there's not enough.
Where the terror for me lied, because I know like philosophically and from a paradigm, where the terror for me lied was that she might find someone who she liked fucking more than me. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the only reasonable course of action, if she succeeded in finding that, is to leave me.
So what are
the only reasonable, that's what my fear says. My fear says, if you like sleeping with somebody more than me, then, and which is a whole crazy concept, because each sexual encounter is its own unique thing.
And it's so crazy as if your relationship isn't so fucking tethered with deeper ties.
Exactly.
Than not.
It's a fucking rampant delusion.
It is.
It's a rampant delusion. And it keeps me from rooting for her. I sometimes can get there where I can get to this conscious place and be like, no, I am you, I am him. I'm rooting for you guys. I want you guys to have, and then I'll retreat to fear, like, oh my God, was it better? If it was, well, I know it's just going to happen. It's because I'm a piece of shit and you're going to leave me. Like that's like the crazy fear voice that comes up.
So I wonder what, like, for myself, selfishly, what are the action steps for cultivating self-compassion? Because it seems like that's like would likely be an underlying layer of all that stuff. Like, I feel like I'm not enough. I don't really truly love myself. So when anyone kind of extends an arm out to love me, I'll sabotage that or slap that away because it doesn't make sense. Like, I don't have that. It doesn't compute.
All I've done for that is to try to look to others' needs and go, where can I be of service and where can I be useful? And if I get interested on them getting theirs, that's the only way I can win is if they win. And when I put myself in that kind of thinking, it's like, that's how I can get over that a little bit. And I can go, at least I'm in love, even if I'm not a fan of me very much, But
in a way, that is a form of external validation. It's you validating yourself through your giving.
Sure.
So as Tait the giver is worthy of love.
Being useful.
I think it's but I think it's a good way to get out of most of your depressive, almost all depressive, traits you can get out of by service. So it's great advice, but I think there still is the trap of, if I'm not in service, am I worthy? And so like what he's asking is like, okay, what are the things that are not, it can't be an outward thing that you do. It has to be this like internal bolstering, this internal curing of this breach that says you're not worthy of love from the drop. Like you have to know that you're worthy of love from the drop because you are love.
But that's such a huge idea.
Yeah. So how do you build the gaps?
Steps toward that. Like I found, so I recently finished up a Vipassana meditation, as you guys already know. And in that, one of the things that they really harp on is that like every moment that you're there, you're practicing for the rest of your life. So when you're sitting doing the meditation, you have an idea of something, either like an aversion or a desire. And so every moment that you have that thing, okay, I want to get up, or okay, I want to have sex, or okay, I want to, and you say, okay, cool, I get that. That's cool. Okay, well, watch that go by. And it starts to become like a muscle where at first you just immediately go out, for you, Tait, it might be, okay, cool. Like I'm of service. I'm a big, strong man. Like I fulfilled that part, but so with the meditation, just as an example action, that's like, you can start to build that micro muscle through that repeated act of being comfortable not doing that thing.
I think it's the thing you do that's uncomfortable like that. You do that contrary action enough, and then there's freedom in that. And then after a while, that contrary action that's hard to fucking get up to do becomes your first nature, right? And you have to practice against, because we want comfort. We want that shit that feels good. It sucks to stand out in the cold. But then you go, okay, that's the only way I can get resilient to cold. And like, there's a benefit to that. And I think there's something in that. I think it just takes time. I think people are looking for a pill or a switch or this or that. And I think it takes time. I know that the longer I meditate habitually, like continually in a real prescribed manner, I get huge benefit from that. I go away from it for a few days, it goes away. I don't own that anymore. So like, if I can stay in the thing, I can garner a great result from that. And when I go away from the thing, then I start to feel bad again. So it's like, for me, it's not a thing that what can I do to overcome that? It's like, what's a way of being that I can walk through this life and I can act in a way that I find honorable in each of these moments, therefore loving myself through all that time, I think. Something like that.
I think, go ahead, brother. I was going to say, I think you have to cultivate practices that are uplifting but also challenging at the same time. So the reward is built into the challenge, right? And obviously we're not strangers to plant medicines here. And I think every time that you go through something deep where you really are faced with challenges and fears and whatever's underneath the surface rises to the top, you have to surrender and let go and come to an understanding that it's okay, and to learn to love all of it, all the shit, all the things that are going wrong, all the ways that you thought and the ways you beat yourself up and put yourself in prison and in hell. And through that, you come out on the other side and it quiets the noise of life. And the same goes, maybe not even, I was going to say on a lesser degree, but maybe not on a lesser degree, with things like cold therapy, breath work, the movement practices that Aaron's so fucking good at, you know, like just moving that energy through your body, like getting a little fucking weird, right? Let's be honest, a little weird, but at the same time,
Saw a couple things.
Kundalini looks fucking weird when people start shaking themselves like rag dolls and but you're moving energy out, right? And if we stay stagnant and think that everything's going to fucking fix itself and the ship will right itself without our intention, without us actually putting something into practice, it never does, right?
Yeah, it's all about what are the ways, how can you learn? And I think you can learn in multiple ways through like suffering and reward. I think is typically like both have to kind of ride together, and also like collapsing illusions. Like when I had that experience where I was getting multiple girls at the same time and having my like sexual King Kong moment, like, all right, that validated some element of me, which actually like kept me from a deep amount of suffering, but it didn't cure my insecurity. It just gave me evidence to support this false idea that I had.
But I scratched the itch and it remains there.
But I was still unsatisfied until I created this open relationship, which actually created the scenario which would put pressure on that constant need for validation. And it's been putting pressure on that for 5 years. And I've been in either avoidance or, you know, desire, like craving to try and get more validation or to try and avoid and pretend like it doesn't matter, until finally, like you start to see it for what it is. Oh, these are the deep undercurrents that are here. And then what's the truth? So you like the pressure forces you to create a solution. And then you can use these solutions that don't really work, these temporary fixes. I can build myself up, or I can avoid it, pretend it doesn't matter. Or I can like actually look at it and ask, you know, what is true? What is true? What is true? And then really see like who you are.
And in that you take ownership of what's happening in your life. It's not like, oh, she's going to go fuck that guy because she wants, and it's like all these things are happening to me. Right. And we dive into that. And this is a huge issue right now. We've been talking about all weekend. It's the victim mentality that we see just spread like a fucking wildfire right now. But to take ownership of anything that's happened to me, and then through that, the responsibility of I'm the only person that can get my ass out of here. I'm the only person that can right the ship, right?
Yeah, I got to save myself. I think that thing you're saying, man, it's vibrating in my head is that struggle your last 5 years or whatever, you know? And I think we get into this place where we go, I want to live a struggle-free life. I want it to feel, I just want this shit to feel good. Why can't it feel, you know what I mean? Because I know there's parts that feel good, like, and it's like that thing that, you know, ships are safe in the harbor, but ships aren't built for the fucking harbor, man. And like that thing about being out there and in that abrasion with Whitney, how fucking huge is that to find somebody that goes, we're going to bleed and toil with each other, and it's going to be expressed like this, and we're going to get stronger through that. And because the thing is at a certain point, you either decide I want to learn and I'm addicted, I'm going to continue learning, or I'm not, because I want to cleave to my comfort. And I think that's the biggest thing is like, how do you get past those things or whatever? How do you get into self? It's like, get addicted to learning and to growing and elevating your consciousness. And then fuck, man, it's undeniable because you're looking at all the different things. Why? I mean, whether it's like, I want to learn why the conservatives think this, or I want to learn why women are like that, or I want to like whatever it is, man, if you're in the learning, you're not in the judgment. And I get into that trouble when I go, oh, this ought to look like this or whatever. And then I start imposing that fucking, you know, this big will that you're talking about onto the situation. And it's like, fuck, just relax, man. And I think what's so helpful to me is to have it tempered. You know, if you don't have equally dominant, strong people around you that are higher thinking like that, and that, you know, you have a love with, it's difficult to grow at an aggravated rate. I feel like the more it becomes more potent, the more
community is an accelerant,
right?
For sure. What was that Maslow quote? It just really speaks to what Tait was saying.
Oh, I'm gonna mess it up. I think something along the lines of you can either move forward and I think progress. That part might be right. You can either move forward into progress or backwards into safety. Mm-hmm. So anytime you move into safety, which I had this experience yesterday before we did our ceremony here, where it was kind of like I was actually saying that Maslow quote over in my head, and it was like, okay, take the red pill, like go forward, like backward into safety is what you know, and then going into what you're unsure about, that's where all the growth is. As you guys were well, there's a couple things. One, that as far as like actionable things to look at, there's in relation to Maslow, you could look at like the Maslow's hierarchy and kind of explore like how is your home. Are you really proud and feel safe and comfortable in your home? How is your nutrition? Do you feel like you're getting strong from the food you're eating? Then look into your relationships. Then look into like, okay, how's my work? Am I passionate about what I'm doing? There's different specific micro levels that you can look in and start to repair. And then the top of Maslow's hierarchy is self-actualization. But you don't get to self-actualization until you're satiated and feel stable in all those other lower levels.
But I think that leaning towards and leaning into the really challenging shit is where really the learning tends to happen. Like the reason why I'm not a very good shaman is because I'm attached to people having a positive outcome and a good experience. Like I can hold space pretty well, right? And I have some capabilities in that. But when I'm making the playlist, like a good ayahuasquero or they'll let the dark stuff roll. Because they know that the dark stuff is sometimes where you get to grapple with your most important shit. But, and I'll do a little bit of that. But if it's like, man, it's kind of getting dark in here. I hope people aren't having a struggle because I'm not committed. I don't have the radical faith in me serving the medicine at this point yet that I'm willing to like put on that song that's going to drudge up the shadow and like have people have to reckon with their deepest fears. And so I know that that's the difference between me and someone like Don Howard, who like, isn't afraid. And some of the great shamans that I've worked with, like they aren't afraid of that Icaro that's going to call you, to face your death because they know that's where the healing is. Right. And I think we have to know that for ourselves and know that like these things that push us, whether it's a plant medicine, or whether it's aspects of your relationship, or whether it's Vipassana, sitting still with your own thoughts, like that fucking thing, all of these things that are hard, like the gold is hidden behind that dragon. That's where the gold typically is. And usually you have to square off and face that.
I was just going to say, it's not enough to just listen to it on the Aubrey Marcus podcast. It's not enough to read about it in a book. Like you have to experience these things firsthand. Yeah. Right. You really do. It doesn't matter which it is. If you're not down with plant medicines, that's okay. There's many other things you can do. But
we did breath work. Were any of us not in a huge amount of tears?
Yeah.
From the fucking breath work?
All the feels. I was happy. I was high as shit, high on my own supply, like Wim Hof says. Yeah. And then I was fucking, just fucking sobbing with snot coming down my face.
It was good.
Yeah.
I was beside him.
And that's just breath. So it's not like we're saying, oh, it's the plant. It's got to be the plant. No. Breath.
But it is hard. And that was the first thing I told Cal was like, I fucking forgot how hard it is to breathe like that. It takes a lot of effort.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm going to sit back and huff and puff.
You guys go until you're hypoxic?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fantastic, man.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it's just awareness, right? Bringing awareness and discipline to a simple act of breathing. And that's the thing is like, it can literally be anything, just pick that thing and then dig into that. And if it's just beating that drum over and over, like over time, there's all the lessons are going to come right there. Like whatever that thing is, get great at that. Just do it. And after it's boring, keep doing it. That's the thing too, is that it's so easy to quit. People quit before they get the juice all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where you've lost. You go to the point of resistance and you go, right. And then you retreat, right? Like you learn the lesson. Like if you were going to be a fighter and you did everything up to the point where you're supposed to walk to the cage and you were like, nah, I can't do it.
Did you see that boxing? Who saw the boxing
I didn't see
fight?
it.
This guy fucking walked down to the ring. This is yoked dude standing in there. Dude fucking takes one step into the ring, takes the foot back out and just turns around shaking his head. No, it ain't going down. And walks back and the camera's slowly following. He doesn't even run. He just walks slowly back to the room. No fight. And they raise dude's hand. He's like, huh? Yeah.
the lesson comes in the courage, you know, and maybe that was a sensible thing. Maybe the dude would just beat his ass and he already had like a concussion. Like, I don't want to judge him for that.
A few ass beatings.
But that's like, oh, I tried keto and it didn't work for me. How long did you do it? Well, 1 or 2 weeks.
Right.
You know, or I went on this hike, but halfway up the mountain, it got kind of difficult. So I head back down.
Or I'm gluten free, but on Sundays is my cheat day. It's like, well, then I want you to maybe think about that. It's never out of your system ever. Like you're never actually gluten free.
Yeah.
The other thing you and I were talking about, Aubrey, was being seen, I think, is really important. Like making that an intentional practice of putting yourself out there and allowing other people to see you when you're, you know, like even last night, like I was saying, like I felt insecure about laughing because I was like, I thought shit was really funny, you know, and I was like, oh, is my laugh too loud and obnoxious, which it kind of is, you know, but throughout that time, it's like every time I do that, that's like literally like a little micro medicine of like, okay, cool. Like I did it and everyone was cool with it. All right. Or like, oh, I'm going to do this public speaking thing. I'm going to be seen by everybody. You know, like, all right, cool. I finished that and I got done. I was like, wow, I feel so much stronger.
Yeah.
You know, or playing music. Yeah.
The more you stretch into that, you build your capacity.
Yeah. And the fucking beautiful part is like, okay, we can all put on a mask and create an avatar. And that avatar will be our personality, what we show other people. And that avatar may get massive accolades, right? Like you could be like, oh, this is the funny guy and everybody loves that guy. But if that's not you and you're projecting an avatar, all that love and all that praise and all that attention and everything that's coming, whether you're in a relationship with a lover, whether you're hanging with your friends, everything that's coming to that avatar, you won't feel. So it'll never actually nurture and support your real soul and you feeling seen and you feeling like you're in community because everything you've done has been a projection. So it never lands. It like never lands in the heart until you're radically vulnerable and just fucking say, all right, here it is me. I'm fucking crazy. And you do a good job of that because you're like we said, your asshole was in a chandelier last night. And you were upside down, moving around. We're like, I closed my eyes for a second. I woke up and you were fucking in a pretzel, sucking your own dick. And it was like, this is great.
He just tied his sphincter and was swinging. He was no hands.
Been icing my back all morning.
But that's it. And then to know that you can go through that and it didn't change our opinion about you at all.
Right.
We can fucking laugh and say like that was fucking funny, you know, but it doesn't change it. And you guys don't think less of me for my story about my fucking beating myself up for sexual performance and like it doesn't matter. Anything vulnerable you can put out and then have people in your tribe in your community be like, oh man, that's crazy. I went through something a little different.
Right.
But the love doesn't change and you get like really comfortable.
I don't even give a shit what anybody's done in a way. Like, I don't care what's happened. The only thing that's kind of like, we can't then buy is like a deal breaker is if we can't talk about it and work through it. Like if you're not willing, like, and it's like that thing with you and Whitney for 5 years or whatever the thing is, it's like to have somebody that you go, okay, no, that was a huge fuck up. You fucking fucked up. It fucked my shit up, dude. I'm fucking pissed. But it doesn't, like, you can still, with mature, loving people, go to a place where it's like, we can rub all the edges off of that, make amends with that, and move on and grow stronger too. It's like, but the minute you go, I don't want to learn or grow anymore, it's like, well, that's cool. That's the point you get off the train then.
Yeah, any two people where you can both acknowledge your shit.
Yeah.
The relationship
acknowledge your shit.
If you're willing to acknowledge your shit, the forgiveness is easy.
Yep.
The forgiveness is easy. Oh yeah, I fucked up.
Yep.
Like if two people are in that state, the relationship is ironclad solid. And maybe you won't, the affinity and the fun won't be there, so you won't hang out, but there's nothing that can ever threaten it. You know, like so it's like unthreatenable in that position. If you're willing to, no matter what you did, go like, oh shit, I didn't even see that. That was fucking gross. I'm sorry. And the other person's like, yeah, okay, that's cool. Thanks for acknowledging and like all good.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to get to that space of vulnerability and 100% honesty, radical honesty, however you want to word it, if you're so concerned what other people think and you're always trying to please others and fit into whatever you think other people are thinking of you. And Mr. Giles, who's over here helping make sure this podcast sounds flawless, was talking about his kids in high school. And they were wondering like, what it was, everybody's thinking about what I'm doing. And he's like, well, how often do you think of the other kids? And she goes, oh yeah, I'm worried about what they're thinking of me. Well, fucking everyone else is doing the exact same thing in high school. Right. So like understanding that, it relieves some of that. And I learned this thing where there was I forget who was telling me, but it was the difference between an elder and an older. And the elders are wise. The elders are the grand keepers of the tribe. They've never stopped learning. They have ultimate wisdom to share and a zest for life. They'll play with the kids. They'll smile. They might need to take a longer nap, but they're engaged with life. The olders, that's the people that are complacent. They want it done a certain way. They don't want to try new things, and they're vested in trying to keep everything into that tight bubble without taking chances, right?
That was a quote. I was talking to Tait this morning. It was like one of my favorite quotes, I think probably ever. As a creative adult is a child who survived, and that's like, as you get older,
a creative adult is a child who survived.
Yeah. So you have that child, that light, right? Where you don't know anything, and it's totally okay not to know anything because you're a little kid, but the reality as an adult, you don't fucking know anything. Like, you go out and you look at a blade of grass. Like, if you can really truly be fascinated by that, or look at your wife or your kid or anything and be truly fascinated by that, then it's like, oh, you have this light, you have this creativity. But we have the tendency, because of that fear of being masculine, to be like a real strong masculine, you have to fucking know everything.
Grow up fast, son.
Yeah.
We're told not to be that kid, because we're treated like a kid, and we don't want to be treated like a kid because we're not treated like a learning sentient being, a lot of times. Like, we're disempowered in a certain way. I think a lot of us feel that. That's why there's all these fantasy movies about kids who have magic powers who can like do shit, because we feel innately disempowered until we can arrive, and we're restricted, and we can't drink alcohol till we're 21. Like, fuck you. Like, that's not gonna apply. So we have this thing, but that child, like, keeping the child in the man is fucking essential. And like, for those of us who've lost that ability to play and access that, and just the ability to like ask, like, what a kid does really well? It's like, hey, can I have this? Hey, can we do this? Hey, can we blah, blah, blah? And like, the people receiving that question, they're free as fuck to say yeah or no. Like, whatever. And the kid's like, yeah, all right, whatever.
They're so good at going, why?
Yeah.
Why? It's the most annoying goddamn thing ever. But you think about it, like, I need to adopt that.
How important is it to say, like, I don't know what that means? Can you break that down for me?
Yeah.
Right? And most people just nod their head like they know what the fuck you're talking about, rather than be like, hey, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the ironic thing with you saying of how, like, expressing something that you feel like everyone's going to judge you for, that it's actually has the total opposite effect, where all of a sudden everyone loves you more because you're actually finally being genuine. And so it's like everyone's like looking for some way to be a hero or whatever. At a micro level, just you being completely honest with yourself, it all of a sudden gives everybody else in the room permission to be honest with themselves. And that's, I think, as far as like medicine for the world.
Everybody's taking a sigh of relief. They're like, thank God this motherfucker finally got it. They were waiting. They were waiting for a while.
Yeah, you take your mask off first, and it gives everyone else permission to do so.
Dude, everybody's wearing a fucking mask.
I can do that too.
Yeah. So if you're the person, it's like you're a goddamn revolutionary. If you're the person, it's like mask on the table. Everyone's like, oh, it's like going into a dance floor. Everybody wants to dance. If you actually like hit the dance floor with your friends and you have fun, at the end of that, you're like, that was amazing. Like, you've never not had an amazing night with that. But the first person to get on the dance floor, they have to be kind of somewhat of like a pioneer.
And then it's actually the second or third one, I think, that then attracts the crowd.
Yep,
the first one's looked at as crazy or something like that, right?
Look at this guy.
And then the second one and the third one's the one that allows the freedom for everybody to adopt that.
But the first one cracks the mask for the next one.
I think that thing too about the all these masks and avatars and all this kind of stuff, like, behind that is the thing of not expressing it when you're saying that then all the good stuff that's coming to that avatar misses your soul. Is that if that avatar is not you, I have a belief that our souls are dying to be acknowledged, to be shown, to be seen. And if you don't do that out of fear, restrictiveness from whatever, how you're raised, whatever, at the certain time, it's like what Kyle said, everybody got to save their own life. And what you got to do is you've got to be just unrepentant in exposing your soul. And if you don't do that, I think you get cancer. Like, I think you're right, man. I think that
it's not science, but
no, there is science.
I've never completed school, but
no, there's actually we gotta fact check this. We need Ryan on the computer like last time. He's not. But I believe, please fact check this. Religions that end up having more shame around genitals will end up manifesting more cancer around those areas.
Is it like around like cancer,
circumcised or not.
like prostate and breast cancer.
Yeah. So if you move through the world with a little bit of contraction around your nether regions, then all of a sudden that's like you're setting the stage for something toxic to start to
No
back
doubt
up.
the link between the emotional body and the regular body is proven. You know, that like that's the fucking placebo and the nocebo effect.
Yeah.
It's in every goddamn clinical trial. Why? Because the mind affects the body. So we have to recognize that. What are the manifestations of that? I don't know. It's going to be shitty if you feel shitty about yourself. It's going to be better if you feel good about yourself and think of yourself as healing. That's for sure. But I want to switch.
Okay.
I want to talk about one thing real quick. Okay. So we're talking about masks, and these are these outward projections of who we are, right? But I want to talk about the subtle manipulations, because this is something that's come up for me a lot. Like, subtly manipulating through acts of kindness or acts of excitement or acts of thing, that also is something that's highly stressful. And I think one of the reasons why I've had like a low level anxiety is because I've had this idea that I need to make people happy or by my communication. I need to make people feel this certain way by this communication. So a lot of times, you know, acts of kindness, kind things, have the intention. It's not the fact that I'm doing kind things, that's great, but the intention was to create a certain response. So in a way, even though it was kind, it was manipulative because I was looking for a result. And so the results that came, that would come back from that, you know, if I say something that I don't really mean, but it creates this result, the result that comes back will never actually feel satisfying because I know that it didn't come authentically from the truest place. It came like I was fishing for something in a certain way. And I think that's something we got to look at every time we have a text that comes to us. And Ted was talking to us about this. Like, you have a text that comes, you know, like what are the things, what's the true way to respond? There's the way that you think you should respond for manners and what to make that person feel good and what will give them the best thing. Well, okay, extra emojis and extra exclamations or whatever you got to do, and the response time to call. Or there's the true thing, the true response, and like having people that you can practice that true response. You know, like the little subtle things. Fuck, that's powerful, because then that really takes the stress off.
You can only do that with some people, man. Otherwise, it's just not worth the juice, bro. I'm going to all that work for what? So you can have hurt feelings. You got to only do that with somebody that goes, he knows he's loved. He knows that, like, blah, blah, blah. And he's not going to think it's curt or short. He's just efficient, and he's probably doing some shit. You know what I mean? It's like, don't take it personally. And that's the thing, is it offers a heightened way to take it personally with texts and with all that likes, whatever it is.
I think that leads to the importance of seeking out friends that are trying to elevate themselves, that are at least on a similar path of self-introspection and willing to face challenges. And in that, you can have a bond, even if it's just fucking one person, that's really meaningful. And if you decide to go with truth with the people that maybe can't accept it and those people fall off, that's fucking okay too. You'll keep building on that one person and finding new relationships that are fulfilling and meaningful, where you have someone that can receive your truth.
I think that's the key, is to build, and that's what I think we're doing with this tribal concept, is trying to build a group of people that there's nothing that we need to do to try and create any other outcome other than the expression of ourselves, or just the joy of doing it. Like, It's like you can go give somebody a back rub because you want to, because it's going to feel good for them and you enjoy that process, but it's not because they'll like you more.
Right.
It's not because you're doing something to show how good you are at this thing or whatever else. It's like a group of people where you can be radically authentic, and that generally ends up being things that actually cause them to like you the most anyways. So it's like releasing the anxiety and tension around it, and then stepping into the joy of that, feeling all of it, and not having to think, you know, not having to like track every little thing that you're saying and doing and judging. How is this land? What are they going to think about this? That's fucking exhausting.
Well, there's a freedom. And if now you go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs and you go, okay, if that shit is in your mind all the time, you don't ever get beyond, I can't believe they didn't give me the right emoji. You never get beyond that. There is no enlightenment coming for you. You're in no danger. You know what I mean? And it's like, so you go, okay, I've got to get beyond my own ego of how I feel like this reflected upon me because another person made this other decision. Like that's an insanity to fucking put away. It's none of your business. You know, those are trick. There's a useful key. Mind your business, you know?
But I see what you're saying though too. And I see what you guys are saying about there is times for a little bit of falsity that just smooths things over, right? Like if you are going through some shit and somebody random that you know is a talker comes up and is like, hey, what's going on? Like you could be like, oh, well, I'm having radical self-validation issues in my ruthless self-examination. And that's the truth, right? But that means that you're committed to 30 minutes of talking about that.
How'd you get into that?
Yeah, exactly. And like, so you have to decide.
You take a class or something?
Well, maybe the best response is, no, I'm good. You know, just, you know, normal shit.
I go with prayer hands. Yeah.
Yeah, I think with all that, it does come back to just do that with small little practices. Like the meditation is a single practice. Exposing yourself is another practice. You know, you don't need to do these grandiose acts. You know, it can be little tiny things, making eye contact with somebody when you're at the grocery store. Like those are the things that really, I think, aggregate and compound and matter. But it's a lot more interesting to focus on the big highlighted
right
thing.
If you do those things consistently, I look, I smile, I remember names, whatever the thing is, then it's not like you're pretending you're a more thoughtful person. You are a fucking you're in the metamorphosis of being a more thoughtful person.
Practice makes the master.
And that's the thing, right? That's why it's just stay in that practice.
It's also being the first to act. That was another thing I like written in my journal I got from someplace else, but be the first to act. Be the first person to do the nice thing. Be the first person to make eye contact. Be the first person to show compassion.
Be the first person to say, I'm sorry when you're in an argument.
Yeah, just be the first.
And you know you have some piece of that as your own responsibility.
That diffuses, it sends this like wave of diffusion through the whole situation. You know, even if you kind of maybe know the other person's a little, you know, like just by being the more responsible, more, maybe that's like a masculine, maybe feminine, I don't know which trait. It's something, it's important. That helps everyone to start to come on that level. And you can almost say, I'm sorry in virtually any situation, because if you're in any kind of contested situation, there's been a truth gap or somehow some way in which things were misconstrued and things were not communicated, and somehow you're misaligned in that way. And both people are somewhat responsible for any misalignment, whether, you know, I've had to terminate. I do almost every termination in our company myself. And I start every one of those meetings with, hey, first of all, I want to say I'm sorry. I want to say I'm sorry I didn't have better oversight. I didn't help you more when I could, and check in with you more and communicate more. And like acknowledge this fact, like, look, I'm not saying that you're gone because you suck and everything else is awesome here. Like, let's just start with me first. You know, how I could have been a better boss, how I could have been a better CEO, how I could have created a situation where this could potentially win, but I didn't, and I'm sorry. But here's the result of where we have to go and what's for the greatest good. But having that conversation, and I learned that because I've been, you know, in this for a long time, like starting it that way creates a whole different vibe than like coming straight at someone like, well, you were late this many times, you were blah, blah, blah. And then people get defensive and then they're like, 26 this whole other thing. Month. But it's the same in relationships. It's the same in all of these potentially contentious discussions, like acknowledging your part. It's because there's usually always some part where you could have done something else. Or even acknowledging, you know, that you didn't have the foresight to see that it wasn't going to work out from the get-go. Exactly. You know, like this isn't meant to work out.
I think the highest form of communication is when I take 100% responsibility for the whole fucking thing. and then you can also, you know what I mean? There's a commonality, a unity of like, we're not separated then in that way. And that's a huge thing. Everybody talks about a 50-50 thing or this. I think you've got to be in 100% ownership. There's not partialities in where I'm standing, where I am. If I say nothing, I affect the room I'm in. You know, you're affecting the way that person feels and reacts to you. And how you see them is what gives them permission to be that thing. And am I looking to be mad or am I looking to get free? Am I looking to be in more communion with this person, or do I need to blame somebody? And that becomes a huge thing.
Like, do I want to be right, or do I want to build this back the way it was, or even better than it was? And give them, all right, we can talk about the severance package and the money, but the best thing I can do for them, anybody that is leaving on it, is I can look at them and see a success and see a hero that goes on his journey, learns from this and fucking crushes it somewhere else.
and look at them not as the failure of this or that or the person that I'm, but like look at them and be like, you're going to fucking kill it somewhere. And then they're like, you know what? Fuck yeah.
Beautiful,
maybe
man.
I am. Maybe I am.
What a difference that must
And
make.
that way, and like that's, I know that, and I've not like I've done that perfect every time, gotten it right. But like, I know that's the best thing you can do. And that's the best thing you can do in any situation. If you're breaking up with your girl or breaking up with a guy or like talking to a friend and like looking at them as the person who is whole and healed and learned from this and completed the hero's journey and come back with the elixir from all the ways that we travel and see that person already now. And like that allows them to become that person.
I think one of the ways to avoid cancer is the
You motherfuckers.
Fact check.
fact check this one.
I don't feel we need to.
Is leave everything better than you found it. If you take that mentality, again, at the micro and the macro level of every single person that you see, every material thing, if there's some trash on the ground, grab it. That ends up translating over to the way you take care of your body. That's like, if you just have that simple mentality, I think you're pretty good.
But the caveat where that scares me is sometimes you have to allow people to face their own shit, and you have to be a mirror, a loving but steady, stable mirror saying, hey, I love you and I see beyond this, but I want to see this gross behavior. You have to take a look at what you're doing, how you're expressing yourself. Like, where are those fears coming from? And that may temporarily leave them angry, depressed, bereft, violated, in all of these different ways. Hopefully, if you do it the right way, it'll minimize that, but you have to be willing, like the shaman, to be a clear mirror and not try to force them into happiness when really what they need is the dark parts of the inmost cave of the hero's journey. And so like making sure that knowing the long game and knowing the truth ultimately is the redeemer, is the thing that will heal them and allow them to accelerate on the path. And anything short is a manipulation, which is your fear, which is just going to couple with their fear and prevent them from actually learning anything. So it's that you're absolutely right. Leave them better than you found them, but trust that truth is the only way to truly leave them better.
Yeah, and that's radical honesty.
Yeah.
Right? If you play small and you're like, oh man, this guy always yells at me and he's so verbally abusive, but he's under a lot of stress, and you start making fucking excuses for people, as we all do,
that.
right? Instead of but instead of just being like, hey, I feel this coming up for me every time we get into these situations, you're screaming at me and it's unacceptable, right? And it doesn't, there's many ways that we can push that out into truth without slapping it in somebody's face and placing blame on the other, but also just like, no, this is exactly what's going on here. And you need to see that, because if I don't tell you this, then, and maybe it doesn't work out, but if I don't tell you this, then it's just going to keep fucking happening the same way.
It seems like if you could, if there was some way to check in and see if every decision you're making is coming from a place of compassion, then whatever you do from that point forward, it's like you're safe.
That comes from
really,
being,
because if you're pushing your shit on somebody else and it's compassionate for you or somebody else, but not, that's meddlesome. Like, this is about other people's lives. A lot of that, like even being mirrors and all that. And I'm just not that extended. I got to go back and go, when I see this dude walk up that's a friend of mine, I want to leave him with a gift. I don't want to go, oh, this fucking guy, I got to talk to him. Hey, because that hurts me. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I'm the fish I got to catch. It's like, I'm not trying, cool if somebody else gets a healing off of that vibe of mine or something. But like, at the end of the day, I'm trying to curate my own mind throughout this to have the best response here, so my light can shine the brightest. And I think that's the thing, is like, I'm not running into burning buildings anymore trying to grab motherfuckers out of dope dens or something, because we're all in the dark then. It's like, at a certain point, it's like, how do you build your bright light so that people can go, oh wow, there's how you can stand in the light like that. The guy's doing, maybe me too.
But you don't have to be uncompassionate to avoid somebody.
You have to be fully compassionate. But my thing is like, I have to be intellectually superior to my emotional responses and go and leave them with a gift instead of going, oh, this guy, because that doesn't do me any service.
Well, truth is compassionate. Like, I think if we go back to truth and like actually know what that word is, like, you can't be in truth and not be compassionate. Because you can't be in truth and not see what the childhood was, what the stresses were, what the common fears that you both share, what the struggles and triumphs and the ways that the world and the selves and the DNA and everything and the parents and the life and the lovers and everything has shaped this person and not have compassion for that, then you're not in truth. You're in your own delusion ultimately. And so I think, like, to me, yes, compassion is a good way to check to see if you're in truth. But to me, it's being in truth that is like the thing. Because, and then compassion will let you know, like, well, if I'm not in compassion, somehow I'm not seeing the truth. I'm not seeing that person as me. I'm not seeing the ways in which, you know, I'm the same and they're the same. Then I'm not in truth. I'm deluding myself.
And you're uncomfortable in your own chest.
I think to Aaron's point, like, there is a way to check in, and it's the practices we've talked about. And it's exactly what you're cultivating with Fit for Service.
Yeah.
Like that idea that we can have practices and cultivate a means where we are the best version of ourselves. And what does the shaman have to be? He has to be the clear instrument, right? If he's carrying his own fears and own shit or she into the ceremony, that's going to come out, right? And they won't be the best for the service of the group and for the good of all, right? So that there is a responsibility, as you brought up, Tait, like with all the shit going on in the world, if you've got a leg up, there's a responsibility there to help others. And that first takes getting your shit together, getting in order, feeling like you really are at peace within, and then you can talk to people in a way that they'll receive the message.
Back to masculinity.
And I would say too, I'd add on to this, is that everybody's got a leg up somewhere. The freedom is in the service and then being able to be helpful. But like, you got a leg up over somebody, everybody does. And if you can't, you're not very creative if you can't find somewhere to be helpful. And in that, I think, is the freedom.
People see a disconnect between truth and loving. And they think like, well, that means I'll tell her that she's fat if she looks fat and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not me. Like, truth doesn't mean you're being a dick. You know, like,
She needs to know. Those stripes don't work.
But ultimately, like, the truth is that you'll see beyond these petty judgments, and you won't even look and recognize the triviality of some cosmetic issue that's going on right now. So you will be expressing in love, like that your truth is love, your truth is compassion, your truth is these things. They're actually inseparable. Otherwise, you're blowing something up and exaggerating it, like, oh, your fucking makeup sucks, I don't, blah, blah, blah. Like, all right, you can have a conversation about that, but it better be fucking trivial for both of you guys, because the only way that is, you know, in love and recognizing the triviality of it and hopefully having a good laugh. Like, what? They look like Cleopatra today, you know, and you just fucking laugh about it. And both of you, that's the way that actual truth is, with love always there, compassion always there. And then you just fucking play and joke and laugh, and the rest is just layered on top.
And I think that thing about like, are you going to your makeup? Like, I couldn't imagine ever going out, like you going out and being, that outfit, Tosh, is fucking bullshit. Like, who would talk to their woman that way? Like that, like, I don't know. But like that whole thing too is like, am I looking to boost? Am I, you know, like with the way you leave an employee that's on its way out? Like, am I trying to bolster confidence and love and security in that person so that they are confident to let their light shine? I think that's the thing, is like, that's where that love is transcendent and transformative, is that if you fully love and you can give that into somebody, it allows them to be free. Yeah. Because they know that you're there no matter what. It's
what
not
a great,
about them.
What a great opportunity. What a great opportunity when that person comes in, they're a little heavier, or they're a little fucked up. Or like me, when I got in my accident, my face was all bloody. And Whitney wanted to fool around with me in the hospital bed. I was hooked up to that heart monitor that kept going off and the nurses kept coming in. It was where the night of my accident, she's still fooling around. And when, you know what that told me? I was like, I don't care about your now we know. I don't care about your swollen face and your dangly ass lip and all this fucked up shit. Like, I'm still into you, even physically. And I was like, fuck yeah. You know, and that was a huge healing part of the process. But if she would
look hot, though.
Yeah, thanks, brother. But if she would have recoiled and been like, oh God, I mean, not today, look at you, I would have been like, okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I'm ugly and I'm disfigured. You know, I get it. You know, fuck, that would have been fucked up. But she had a beautiful opportunity and she fucking hit that opportunity with those 777 jackpot of like, yeah, you know, so much, it was significant. And we all have those significant moments where when someone shows us something really ugly, we can love them still. Like, whoa. Then when they show you your ugliest shit and you love them still, and like, fuck. Wow.
And probably the only way to really actually truly love them still is to love the shadow or dark or shittier sides of yourself.
Totally. Totally. We're only capable of loving others as we love ourselves.
Yeah.
So if we can't love our own ugliness, we want to punish ourselves indefinitely for our own shit. Those times that we got triggered and we got angry and we raised our voice or whatever the fuck our personal story of shame looks like. If we don't overcome that with our own self-love, we won't be able to do it with anybody else.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's crazy that like our, whatever 99%, 100% of our perspective of beauty for most of us is like a 1/16 of an inch layer of skin over your body. Like that's where we put all of our focus. If you augment that skin just a little bit, it's like we're off. And there's so much more to it than that.
This is a problem.
Exactly.
And the reward system that's in place. And I think this is particularly hard for girls in our generation. Like the Instagram reward system for superficiality is like fucking ridiculous.
But the depth quotes underneath the ass shots are really good, dude. Right? I mean, I like it when
that's
they try
what you
to
call
do
a
it.
win-win, Tate. That's what you call a win-win.
I got all the feels in that post. She went my dick hard and touched me on the inside of my heart.
Well, shit. Any closing words here?
Oh my.
I guess it's bears saying like we're in the midst of this fantastic weekend here in Sedona as our setting, and to be able to take time for this and for this to occur and to be here with you guys is such a special thing. And I think that if anything, it's like the template of going, what kind of standard am I going to demand for myself? And I'd like my friends to have that standard too. And in that is a fucking great boat to ride on to higher planes. I think, it's really been great. And I appreciate you guys so much. And anytime to like unplug with all the harrying of life, it's like meditation, taking 5 minutes a day at the top and the bottom. It's like just to do a little bit of oddity into your regular schedule to upset that kind of normalcy. I think it brings in a different vibration and different possibility. And I'm real grateful to be sitting in that.
I don't realize how tunnel visioned I am in like my LA existence and just like focusing on the goals and the objectives and coming out here and just focusing on community and focusing on, all the things, being seen and seeing you guys and supporting you guys and feeling supported. That's been something that's has been challenging for me throughout the years, is actually accepting support, actually feeling like held by somebody. It sounds a little, I'm using pansy language. I'm
not at all, man.
But that's something that you guys have been super supportive of me throughout this. And it's actually been like, I can feel it healing something. I don't know exactly where it is, maybe around my heart, around my something. But yeah, it's felt invaluable. So I really appreciate you guys doing it.
Yeah, brother. Well,
yeah.
Less than an hour.
What a night.
The sun is setting. Final ceremony. I just have so much gratitude for the group, the experience, the number of experiences that we've had this week, and just where we're at in life. Like Aubrey, to your point, that there's so much worry in the thick of the shit, and you're in the eye of the hurricane and just looking around you like I'm fucked. And yet here we are batting 1,000, right? Every fucking time there's been a challenge, we've succeeded. Every single time we've been faced with something that had us thinking it's all fucking over, it'll never be the same. It hasn't been the same. It's only gotten better.
Right.
Life truly gets better every fucking year we're on this planet.
Yeah, that's that hindsight is foresight. In hindsight, we're always grateful for everything. In foresight, everything's disaster that's going to fuck us up. And that's the
nice
crazy,
though, that consciousness shift of going,
yeah.
Oh, maybe there's no other shoe that's going to drop. It just gets better and better and better.
To be able to live in trust rather than fear all the time, like recognize danger, but that's like, that is freedom. That's claiming, the kingdom of heaven as it has been called for thousands of years. Claiming the kingdom of heaven here on earth is to be able to live in that presence, and that's, I think, what we're all working for. Like that's, ask the question, where are we going? Like, I think we're going to a place where we can be free and when we can be in love with all of life. And, that means the hard times, the good times, all the in-between times, the times where we're of service, the times where other people are of service to us. And like, why else though? But why else would we be in this experiment, in this earth, in this body, in this place, but to learn to love it all, and like learn to love the whole process and trust the process. So I think that's for me is definitely, where I always come back to is just this, gratitude for all these opportunities and gratitude for you guys. And it's been fucking beautiful, and it's just going to keep going. And the cool thing is like, for anybody listening, like all of us here, whatever shit we find, we're not going to like keep that shit secret from you, like trust that if we're going to be learning and figuring shit out, maybe it'll be helpful. Maybe it'll be stupid. Maybe you listen to this and like, these guys are fucking idiots. So that's fine. Like whatever.
You get to watch the show.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're just
Thanks for staying to the end.
I'm sure I'm sure not saying we're doing it right and this is the right way, but we found other ways to be intolerable. And so if you found other ways to be intolerable, perhaps you too resonate.
Yeah. And that's it. And just spreading your truth, receiving the love that comes, because it'll come. Thanks, everybody.
Fuck yeah, brothers.
Fuck yeah.
Right on.
Align Podcast.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into that conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Some ways that you can support this podcast, one of which you can pick up an Align band, which is a heavy-duty resistance band. Comes along with a door anchor and a carrying case and a video guide on how to mobilize those joints and integrate that body of yours. Really great stuff. You can be found at aligntherapy.com and also on amazon.com. Thank you also so much for utilizing the Amazon affiliate link on the right-hand sidebar of the podcast page. Bookmark that thing. Anytime you purchase some crap on Amazon, purchase that crap. Through that link, we get a percentage of it. Costs you nothing. And I think that's enough. Thank you guys so much for reviews on iTunes. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Pow.